All right, here we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Soroka, founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. I am honored to bring our next guest in Profiles in Ink, Mr. Bill Bumphrey, out of Las Vegas. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
So Bill is a mobile notary and loan signing agent. He's also has some experience on the loan officer side, and he's an active real estate agent. So I specifically invited him to Profiles in Ink so we could talk about how to leverage or how a real estate agent could leverage their contacts and help build a mobile notary and loan signing business. So Bill, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing just your story about how it's going for you in the Las Vegas area. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this and why it appealed to you and where it's going?
Well, I got started in the real estate industry about 15 years ago. I came in as a realtor, and then right before the market crashed, I decided to switch over to becoming a loan officer. Then the market crashed. Then I moved into a different realm of real estate with doing more evaluations. And as that was great during the market depression, I was doing great. But then as the market started to right itself, I had to move into another direction. So I went back with focusing a little bit more on regular real estate. I kept the BPOs, but I wanted something to supplement it. And that's when I found out about notaries and being a notary. And I thought, well, this is ideal because the BPOs that I do, the broker price opinions, those have a 1 to 3 day turnaround time. And so they're pretty flexible. You can fit things in there. But then I thought, well, this would be ideal with being a notary because that also can fit in and fill in some of the gaps. So that became my drive behind it because I just wanted to supplement it and continue in the real estate vein because I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. And let's talk a little bit about the broker price opinions, which is a BPO. And that, to me, was an awesome way to sustain your business even through the hard times. And that's something that I know a lot of real estate agents want to know about. But you had a individual broker license too, as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that made those possible?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I did them before I was my own broker, but then I became my own broker just to eliminate any hassle with having to deal with the broker above me. So that's kind of how it happened.
Fantastic. No, I love that. That's that's a great way to be resourceful in your business and create these multiple streams of revenue for you. So let's talk a little bit about your mobile notary business now. I know it's relatively new, right? How long have you been a mobile notary and loan signing agent?
I got my license on July 10th of last year.
All right. So July 10th of 2018. So this is relatively fresh for you, but how many signings have you done?
Well, as of right now, 320 plus a couple. So I've done a lot.
That is a lot of business in less than a year. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, actually, I was doing a BPO, and I was in somebody's house, and they happened to be a lender. And I was talking to the lender, and I mentioned that I had just gotten my notary certificate, and if he needed any help coming up, that I would be available to do something like that. And so we exchanged business cards, and then he says to me, well, hey, I've got my next door neighbor is a loan, he owns a signing service. Why don't you talk to him? And so he gave me his information. I contacted him, and kind of it just went from there. I started working with him, and just boom, kind of blew up.
I love this because in a lot of ways, and you can probably agree to this even in real estate, one person that you meet can change everything in your business. And it sometimes hits you at the most unusual times, unexpected times, I guess I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you connected with one particular person, gave you access to tons of signings, and then how did you leverage, or have you leveraged needed to leverage your real estate contacts or connections from that?
Well, I mean, I still, you talk about like CRM and the contact management software,
Yeah.
and I use that. I try and use that every day, adding a couple people like you mentioned in some of the videos, and so I use it as a way of speaking to people on both levels. Hey, just so you know, I'm in real estate, and I also have this available to me. And because I've got 15 years in the business, I know a ton of escrow officers that are no longer escrow officers. Some of them are loan officers now. Some of them are notaries now. I know a lot of realtors, and not as many lenders. They tend to come and go a little bit, the loan officers, and sort of realtors, especially here. I mean, brand new realtors, they don't stick around
Yeah.
because they come into it thinking it's an easy business and they don't want to focus on actually doing the work. But I guess, I don't know if I answered the question.
Well, let me ask you this. If you, right now, do you consider yourself more escrow direct, or do you work with signing companies?
Right now I'm probably I'm getting more signing company stuff than I am escrow direct. I do have a couple of escrow directs that I do work with, but a good majority of the business that I get right now that is signings are coming from companies, loan signing
Great.
companies, and the signing service that I started with, I'm not with him any longer, I don't think. But
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that too. We don't have to go into too much. I don't want you to have to overshare or share anything else. But you ran into almost like a worst case scenario for that a lot of seasoned notaries and definitely new notaries would be worried about. And I know we've already just agreed that you don't mind sharing a little bit about that situation. Can you kind of elaborate on what you ran into?
well, essentially, I got thrown into the deep end of the pool really quickly, which was fine. I mean, I learned a lot in a short amount of time, and throughout the summer, through July and August and September, I was just busy nonstop. Then around probably around mid-September, I noticed that my guy, the signing company, was falling behind on payments a little bit, and I'd have to remind him, hey, don't forget, we're a couple weeks behind. And then we got into October, same thing. I was just busy all the time. I was running all over the place doing signings, but my payments weren't coming in to match it. And so I happened to talk to the owner of the signing company one day, and he mentioned, hey, sorry, I haven't gotten back to you on that. My toy hauler broke down on the way back from Lake Havasu. And when he said that, I kind of got this gut feeling of, all right, something's not right. If you're running a signing company and you've got, I knew of at least 5 other signers that were working with him. And here you can't get me caught up because your toy hauler broke down on the way back from Lake Havasu. And that kind of threw up some red flags. So then I thought to myself, okay, look, I'm going to go through this through the end of October, basically, is my deadline that I set, and say, hey, if I'm not caught up, then, then I'm just going to stop taking signings. And, so it got to the point where the end of October came, I was reminding him, still wasn't seeing anything from it. So I kind of just said, okay, no more. And at the same time, I think as soon as I said, okay, I'm not going to take any more, he basically wrote me off and said, okay, well, I'm not going to offer you anymore, because I haven't been offered any more from him because he realizes he's behind on what he owes me.
Right, exactly. And that's definitely not going to work out anymore. And now here we are at the end of January, and you're still going through that, still pursuing that, even taking some legal action on that, right?
Yep. Yeah, I got LegalZoom, and they wrote a letter for me and send it off to him. And it took him a little while after he got the letter to respond to it. He's since responded with, oh, hey, I want to get you paid. And then crickets. I haven't heard anything.
Happen, yeah. And just to clarify, it was actually Legal Shield, right, that you used, not Legal.
Yeah, Legal Shield.
No problem. Legal Shield. Yeah, I love it. That's why I signed up for it too, is having access to those attorney letters like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I know that you'll keep us updated on how that goes. And when we were talking earlier, you had even said, one of your great lessons and takeaways from that was just, and even what you did is just trusted your gut. you knew something wasn't right, you gave yourself a deadline if you didn't get caught up, and then you cut yourself off. And that was a tough decision when you're talking about the volume that you're talking about.
Yeah.
One thing, Bill, I want to talk about, though, is that your attitude about it has been tremendous, especially when you look at it from the experience side, right?
Yeah.
Here you are in less than a year, and you already have 320 signings under your belt. And I know you shared that that has helped you get your foot in the door at other signing companies as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you run into, and I'm sure all the other notaries that are watching this, especially in the beginning, you run into, oh, you don't have 2 years experience. And so they just tend to, they use that as an arbitrary cutoff point for some reason. And so usually when they ask me, how many years experience do you have? I just play the words a little bit and I say, well, I've been in the real estate industry for 15 years. And usually that's enough to kind of bypass that. They don't hear, they hear, oh, he's been a notary for 15 years. If they press the issue, or if they look on NNA and they say, oh, well, this shows that you've only been a notary for 6 months, then I'm able to say, well, yes, but in that time, I've got 300 plus signings. So I guarantee you, I know and have experienced way more than some of your other more seasoned people that have 2 and 3 years experience.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what it comes down to it. These signing companies want to make sure that you are going to have some sort of experience level that's going to allow you to provide value and take care of their customers the way that they want them taken care of. So that's tremendous value to you. Now, specifically about real estate agents, I know you are you're practicing real estate agent. You've been around the industry. And one of the things that I advocate for, and I see the industry moving towards, is marketing or partnering a partnership between real estate agents and elite signing agents. And I know you've been kind of working with a core group of fellow signing agents there in Las Vegas to kind of talk about the possibilities. Can you share kind of your overall plan and where you think that might be of value?
With the realtors?
Well, yeah, marketing to real estate agents.
I think, what I was kind of talking about with some of the people in the group is, I think the smartest thing to do if you're going to go after the real estate agents or try and approach them is to approach the biggest ones or the middle to biggest ones. Don't waste your time with the brand new ones, because the brand new ones don't have allegiance to anybody. They're being bombarded constantly with home warranty companies and escrow companies and take this training and do this. And they've just got all these different things on their plate. And so it's really hard to get them to be aligned with you. Where if you go to somebody that's been in the business a little bit longer and sees the value and has the client base, it might be an easier sell. Because one of the biggest complaints that you'll hear from customers, especially when they're buying in their second home and you're the one that's helping them, is, no one was at the signing to help me out or to answer any of my questions. And I'm telling you, in those 300 plus signings that I've been in, maybe 15 of them had a realtor present, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I always used to, and still go to my signings if I can. So my thought was, well, you know what, if you kind of sell the agent on, hey, that your clients want it. They want you to be there. They want you to hold their hand. So why not do it a little bit more on your terms, where you say, hey, I can be at your signing, but let's do it in my office. And so if that realtor is doing a lot of business, the title company's not going to necessarily fight them, because they want to continue to get all of that escrow business. And so then it becomes one of those things where you can say to the realtor, hey, we'll do it in your office. I'll come with the docs. We'll sign right there. I'll take them back while I'm taking them back, rather than you standing in the hallway of the title company. You actually can discuss the end of transaction with them in your office, and then you don't have the drive time back. You can continue on with your day.
Right.
And so that's the selling point to them. Now, the thing I'm going to meet with a title rep, a title and escrow rep next week, to kind of hammer out some of the details of pay and how to make it more attractive and how to work it within there, because there's a lot of little elements that have to be worked out. But
yeah, there are, and the key is to start having that conversation. So that's why I love that you've reached out you've got a lunch set up, a power lunch set up to kind of hash out these details because, there's a lot of real estate agents that don't even know that mobile notaries are even an option to them. So we've got that little bit of a learning curve. But when you talk about these established real estate agents, they've been in the business for years. They're always looking for ways to bring more value to the relationship to develop that loyalty. And a good signing agent team can help do that, exactly as you said. Bring the signing to them. Be a hero. They can be a hero to their client by avoiding that traffic and all that hassle. It's comfortable in their office. And then, of course, the details on who's paying for what, that all gets worked out with the team. And I love that you suggested using these established agents because they're the ones that with the volume. And so when you think about the food chain and what we're doing, obviously we're going for real estate or for escrow officers, but escrow officers' clients are real estate agents. And the ones with volume have a big say in who closes that transaction and where it happens. So when you all start working together, that's when the magic really starts happening. So I'm so glad that you're moving forward on that. I can't wait to see where you go with it. And we're kind of coming up on our time here, but I'd love to talk about those three things, the three suggestions you had or what you've incorporated into your business that you'd recommend for new notaries. And I wrote them down. If it's okay with you, I'll just kind of prompt you. And if you want to say anything else on it, please jump in.
Yeah, and I thought of another one. So.
Oh, good. All right. Why don't we start with that one? Number one, what is it?
Well, the number one thing that I think has helped me more than anything, well, not more than anything, but has helped me with my escrow direct is my send out cards that I signed up with. Whenever I do something with a new escrow officer, when I was within the signing company with my other guy, I did not do send out cards to those escrow officers. Number one, because I was just busy constantly with them, but also I wasn't directly Fidelity approved, so it wasn't going to behoove me to do that with them. But anybody else, as soon as I was done, when I went back, I would write them a quick send out cards and say thank you. And one of the companies that I went to and worked, I did a signing for him that was a mobile and not in office, was not Fidelity. So I did send out a card to them. And a couple of weeks later, I got a call and she wanted me to do my own directly. And so then I sent her a card after that as a thank you. I got another one the next day. When I went in to pick up the documents, I ran into one of the people that had worked at a Fidelity company, but they had laid her off at the beginning of winter. And so I met her. I sent her a send out card saying, hey, congratulations on your promotion. And in that time, those 3 cards that I've sent have cost me $9. But I've done 6 signings in this office and each at $150. So, I mean, what is that? That's $900. So that's a pretty good return on investment.
I'm a huge fan of send out cards. And now they've got a counterpart smartphone app called TouchNote. Huge fan. No matter what you do, whatever service you decide to do, even if you handwrite it yourself, send people cards. Love that. Thank you, Bill.
Yep,
all right. Next one that you mentioned. Don't be so afraid that you're just do it.
Yeah, I think we had kind of discussed when I started with this signing company. My thought was, hey, I'm going to start with a signing company so I get some, a little more experience from the loan the signing agent side of it, and just see it a little bit more from the other side of the table. I went over and met with the guy that was working with, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to walk you through a couple signings. And he brought me into a seller signing. I think there was 10 pages. I don't even know if there was a page that was notarized. I don't remember. But it didn't really give me any instruction. And then the next day he says, hey, I've got a refi over on the west side of town. Can you do that for me? And I said, well, yeah, of course. And I didn't know what I knew the basics of it, but I'd never set across and flew solo. And so I just kind of said, okay, no problem. And so I did it. And yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking at first, but you got to figure that probably about 90% of the people that you're sitting across the table from, you know way more than they do about what's going on, even if you're in your infancy with it, because most people just don't do this all the time. I mean, yeah, you're going to sit across from realtors buying houses and loan officers and attorneys and all these other people that might be scary, but you just kind of go into it with confidence and you figure it out. It's not It's not hard. And what I usually will do, especially as I'm going through the document stack, because there's so many times when the document stack is just handed to you right as you're meeting the people and you don't have time to look ahead, is I will give them the document, make sure they're signing in the right place. And then while they're doing that, I'm skimming the one that's in front of me just to make sure if I don't know what it is that I can kind of BS my way through it a little bit if I have to. So
I think that's a really good tool to use as well. So when the borrowers are signing one document, if you can be perusing the document that's coming up next and reading it. And one of the things that I did in the very beginning as well is I would say, all right, guys, so sorry, this lender's doing things a little bit different than I'm used to. Let me just take a quick look at this and make sure it is what I think it is. Read it real quick and say, oh, yep, that's definitely it. That's the escrow impound account alert or whatever it is, whatever that document is. So that's the beauty about building a relationship too. When you show some personality and you establish confidence from the very beginning, you really can say just about anything when it comes to the documents because the people are connecting to you and they appreciate the communication. So that's great.
The other thing you can do in there that's kind of useful that I learned this trick earlier on in the very beginning when I didn't know the whole doc stack was inevitably there's going to be a page in there that wants their contact information, their forwarding information, or their bank wiring information if they're getting money back. And so if I would pull that out of the stack and hand it to them because that takes them a while to fill out. And then that gave me a lot more time to kind of scan through the stack to make sure I had to just
excellent
it was a trick that I used in the beginning because I was like, hey, I got to look at this. Here, you do that because that doesn't need me.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Thank you for that. Number 3, in your notes section of your journal, you add something unique. I've actually never heard this before, is adding the what?
Whenever I do in my journal, whenever I'm doing a signing, I always write down the company that I did it for, and then I write the escrow number. And if I need to, the escrow officer, sometimes it's embedded in the number, but and then if there's anything strange that happens or anything weird, I'll also write that down. But that has saved my butt on a ton of them because I can look back and I can say, no, it was escrow number, blah, blah, blah. And for the purpose of working with this guy that I'm working with right now and having to kind of fight to get paid, I have proof of every single escrow that I've done because I can tell you every single escrow number. And all you got to do is dig back through those numbers and you'll see my stamp on every single one of them because I can tell you the company it came from. I can tell you all.
That's excellent. Excellent record keeping there. And speaking of record keeping, that brings us to number 4, what you use for your bookkeeping and invoicing.
I use Notary Gadget. I think it's easy. You kind of just go in there. You can put in the who you signed for. You can put in the borrower's names, the time, the date, and the fee. And then it's got a nice quick invoicing thing where you can just send the invoice as soon as you've created it right in there. It also keeps a running total, and it'll tell you when someone's 30 days behind, 45. It kind of shows up in red. It's got a mileage feature on it. It's something that I started working on right from the very, very beginning. I tried doing the SnapDocs one that they kind of had that one that's in there. And I just thought, this is too much work. And it makes me have to stay with SnapDocs on their platform. Plus they have all the information that they could possibly want to steal my client if they decided to go that avenue. So I decided to get offline and kind of go with the one that was just tailored to me personally. And I like it because it's easy. It's quick to record stuff. It's quick to. It's a little cumbersome in some areas, like trying to find that report of what was paid and what hadn't been paid. That took me a little bit to figure out.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve for all of that. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's got nice features to it, and it's simple enough to do. So I've used that, and I started recording that right from the very beginning because I am not good with paperwork on a lot of stuff. Right. And so I forced myself in the beginning, hey, religiously get this in. Like what I initially did was I was doing it once every 2 weeks. I would sit down when I got a free moment and I would just record all of my signings in those last 2 weeks in there so that I could keep on top of it.
Yeah. Excellent. Bill, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I know you have a signing coming up in about an hour and you're still waiting for documents. So
Yeah.
I'm going to let you get off of here. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you inside the Sign and Thrive Notary training course and community. I love that when you share, and I love that you took some time to share your experience here. Thank you again for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
All right. We'll see you later.